At the finish line of the third Targa Florio, no one expected to see an Isotta Fraschini. From the coast near Palermo, people had heard news that number 7A had gained ground in the mountains in the third and final lap of the Madonie circuit. But no one saw this coming, and no one imagined that the roaring Isotta 50 HP of Vincenzo Trucco, which suddenly appeared through a cloud of dust, would set the race's record time, 7 hours, 49 minutes and 20 seconds. Soon after the winning pilot came the Fiat of Vincenzo Lancia, who placed second like the year before, and a little later the Spa of the young driver Ernesto Ceirano. Yet everybody was still waiting for Felice Nazzaro, winner of the previous edition and favorite in the race with his Fiat. As news came that he ended up withdrawing, people started to clap for Trucco and the 20-year-old kid riding with him, who was hugging him tight in awe and pride. He was his mechanic and had no doubt about his victory. His name was Alfieri Maserati. That day was May 18, 1908. The finish line of the 1908 Targa Florio represents one of the most symbolic stages of the dawning of the Italian car industry. As spectators saw the drivers passing, what they witnessed was not just an epic race, which Palermo entrepreneurs Ignazio and Vincenzo Florio had created 2 years before to celebrate the glories of their family, and which would become over the years one of the most iconic automobile competitions of all time. But rather, what they saw was an operatic scene, where the restless pursuit of legend by different characters gave a melodramatic start to their glorious careers, brands, and businesses. What was born that day was the Italian automobile industry itself, as a cloud of fierce competitors, as a highly emotional space of affirmation, and as a collective obsession for speed. Let me go back to the protagonists of this drama to explain what I mean. The runner-up, Vincenzo Lancia, was the son of a soup canner who had made his fortune in Argentina. Vincenzo started his career as a mechanical apprentice for Giovanni Battista Ceirano, designer of the first car ever built in Italy, the Well-Eyes, which he sold to the newly founded Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino in 1899. After the acquisition, Lancia became chief inspector, test driver, and race pilot for Fiat, gaining fame in 1906 for his victory at the Gold Cup of Milan. After 2 second places in the Targa Florio in 1907 and 1908, he started his own company, combining his driving ability with his mechanical expertise. Lancia would become a signature brand in the Italian automotive industry, releasing groundbreaking models like the 1922 Lambda, the first ever car to feature a load-bearing unitary body, and the 1937 Aprilia, developed with designer Battista Farina through the pioneering use of the wind tunnel. The third-place driver, Ernesto Ceirano, was the youngest of the 4 brothers from Turin who pioneered car making in Italy. The oldest, Giovanni Battista, who had designed the Well-Eyes, had established his own company in 1903, founding the Società Torinese Automobili Rapid, better known as STAR, with his other siblings Giovanni and Matteo. Giovanni left STAR 3 years later, founding his own Itala, and then Matteo left, establishing SPA, the Società Piemontese Automobili. It was with an automobile SPA that their little brother Ernesto passed the finish line in Palermo, and you can only imagine the arguments this might have generated among his siblings. As I discussed in the episode I dedicated to Giovanni Battista, the Ceiranos did not enjoy industrial success, but their work is at the origin of Fiat, Italy's most renowned car maker throughout the 20th century. As for Felice Nazzaro, his withdrawal from the race was certainly a cause of embarrassment, as he was the defending champion and a very popular pilot, but also the driving force behind his comeback. His redemption came a few months later, on September 7, 1908, when he defeated Trucco in the first Coppa Florio organized in Bologna. On that occasion, on the roads of the Bologna circuit, which passed through Sant'Agata Bolognese, now headquarters of Lamborghini, and San Giovanni in Persiceto, birthplace of former NBA star Marco Bellinelli, a 10-year-old kid from Modena marveled at Nazzaro's epic return. His name was Enzo Ferrari, and that day, seeing his idol, he decided to abandon his ambitions as an opera tenor and become a racing driver. That was the start of his legendary career, first as a pilot for Alfa Romeo and then as a manufacturer in Maranello. And Trucco? Well, the 1908 victory in the Targa Florio was a decisive momentum builder for him, which eventually led him to race in the Indy 500s a few years later, and for his company as well. Before then, the car manufacturer which Cesare Isotta and the brothers Vincenzo, Antonio and Oreste Fraschini had founded in Milan in 1900 had had a slow start and had merged with Lorraine Dietrich in 1907 to seek affirmation in racing competitions. Until a few years prior, the French automobile company had also been the workshop of another Italian engineer, Ettore Bugatti, who then decided to open his own business. After the 1908 win, Isotta Fraschini grew, legitimizing itself as a luxury brand and becoming a status symbol of the new American aristocracy in the 1920s, thanks to its deluxe limos and many appearances in Hollywood movies. Now, Trucco's young mechanic, Alfieri Maserati, had been working for Isotta Fraschini since 1902, when he was only 15. His older brother Carlo, who worked for Isotta as a test driver, had encouraged him to join the company and move to Milan. In addition to his passion for mechanics, another factor had moved Alfieri to follow him and leave behind their hometown of Voghera. His older brother had passed away as an infant at a few months old, and Alfieri not only took his name, Alfieri, which literally means standard bearers, but also embraced the mission to redeem his alter ego's life with his feats. It was with this fire that Alfieri Maserati worked his way up from the humblest assignments at Isotta Fraschini to the Reparto Corse, and it was in the race department that he met Vincenzo Trucco, who later became his mentor and business partner. 40 days after contributing to the win at the Targa Florio, on July 6, 1908, Alfieri Maserati made his own racing debut in the Grand Prix of Dieppe in France. His Isotta Fraschini finished 8th, while Trucco didn't even finish the race. During the subsequent years, Alfieri Maserati became a key asset for Isotta Fraschini. We sent him to Argentina as head representative in Buenos Aires, transferred him to London, and then moved him back to Bologna in 1912, where he decided to stay. It was in Bologna that, in partnership with his other brothers Ettore and Ernesto, he opened his own mechanical workshop in 1914. The symbol of his Società Anonima Officine Alfieri Maserati, designed by his brother Mario, the only one of the 7 who was not involved in the car business, would pay homage to the city by replicating the trident of Neptune from the central statue in the Piazza del Nettuno. As the Great War broke out, Alfieri and his brother Ettore were called to arms, and Ernesto, the youngest sibling, took care of the business in Bologna. Alfieri and Ettore were put in charge of 2 mechanical workshops in Milan manufacturing airplane engines, and during that time, Alfieri got back in touch with his old friend and mentor Vincenzo Trucco. Together, they patented an insulated spark plug in mica, which proved to be very resistant, and founded the Fabbrica Candele Maserati, which fueled the expansion of his automotive business. After the war, Maserati synthesized these experiences in his first prototype car, which adopted built-in plugs, Isotta Fraschini airplane engine technologies, and a chassis from the touring company Diatto, which had been instrumental to the parallel success of Bugatti. Racing, of course, continued to be an obsession for Maserati, who competed at the Mugello track in 1920 and won the Alpine races Susa Moncenisio and Aosta Gran San Bernardo. It was in 1925 that he designed his first vehicle for serial production, the Type 26, a car which would lead him to numerous victories, as well as to an unfortunate crash during the Targa Florio of 1927, which eventually led to the loss of a kidney. He would never fully recover from the accident, and in 1932, a relapse from the traumatic incident would cause his sudden death at only 45 years of age. Over the last 5 years of his life, Maserati produced his most innovative and exemplary cars, moved by the competition with Bugatti, whose pilot Tazio Nuvolari had already become a legend, and Alfa Romeo, whose young pilot Enzo Ferrari was starting his career. In 1929, he released the V4, which reached 246 km per hour, defeating the previous speed record held by Fiat, and triumphed in 1930 at the Grand Prix of Tripoli, Rome, and Monza. After these victories, which earned him the title of Cavaliere del Lavoro, he released the 26M, the 8C 2500, and the 4CTR, three models which defined the brand's identity and character in connection with power, speed, elegance, and control. Despite the business' initial growth, the premature death of Alfieri in 1932 and the financial crisis of the 1930s led to a gradual decline, until the brand was eventually sold to the Orsi brothers in 1937. From then on, the masterpiece of Alfieri Maserati would take on a life of its own as a celebrated piece of Italian ingenuity and beauty. Yet the founder's fierce character would be a defining part in all the brand's successive models. The Maserati Alfieri, which the company dedicated to him in 2014 on the centenary of its foundation, is a visible embodiment of the creative drive, of the competing urge, of the fiery temperament of the young mechanic and driver who learned to race faster than everybody else. The words of Maserati's epitaph in Bologna describe him as a pioniere del motore e della velocità, a pioneer of engines and speed. The multitude that attended his funeral in 1932 would grow over the subsequent decades into an international crowd of fans and admirers who continue to enjoy Alfieri's dream and marvel at his inventiveness. He did not see the fruits of his work, but as a pioneer and competitor, he shaped the collective growth of Italian automobiles, stirring technical advancements and authoring cars with a unique touch. Now let's return to that finish line in Palermo in 1908. There was Ignazio Florio and his wife Franca, and also Lancia, Nazzaro, Ceirano looking at the winner Trucco and his mechanic. At that line, there was the early seed of Lancia, Fiat, and Maserati. There were also brands that disappeared, like Ceirano Spa or Isotta Fraschini, and stories in the making, like that of Ferrari and Bugatti. But in that soil, on that operatic stage, we see a posteriori the first picture of a constellation of geniuses, which truly gave birth and life to the Italian automobile industry. If there is a common element in all these brands which turn a country of immobile ruins into a nation obsessed with speed, racing, and luxury cars, well, that element is what we might call the pursuit of legend, or rather, the urge to transform the present into the stuff of dreams, the transitory into an everlasting epic, and an uncompromising will to compete into a stimulus to grow. All these prima donnas, Nazzaro, Maserati, Ferrari, Nuvolari, Trucco, were part of this emotional story, of this quest for everlasting glory, of this melodramatic bid for modernity that automobiles represented. Their ferocious rivalry, their stubbornness in overcoming all sorts of obstacles, and their obsession with success did not destroy them, however, but rather led them to keep working, humbly entrusting their little wings to a broader win, as expressed in the poster for the Bologna Circus in 1908, and above all, to keep dreaming together, despite any limitations or challenges. It is that dream that we share today when we stare enchanted at an Italian car. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this presentation, I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel or to the webpage www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications on new episodes. You can also follow me on my LinkedIn profile or on Instagram at Italian Innovators for additional materials about the show. Thanks again. Arrivederci e alla prossima.